My Fault by Billy Childish. This detailed summary follows the raw, semi-autobiographical narrative of a young man, the unnamed narrator, as he grapples with a traumatic past and a bleak present. The narrative is a torrent of memory, rage, and vulnerability, framed by a single formative night. The narrator opens as the narrator, a self-proclaimed young writer, drunk and wandering the cold streets with only 3 pennies in his pocket. Filled with a potent mixture of self-pity and righteous anger at the world's injustices, he stares into the glittering window of an off-lit sale. In a moment of reckless abandon, he decides to walk in and take a bottle of scotch. The 2 men inside, a skinny one with a beak-like nose and his crony Bob, are instantly hostile. A confrontation ensues, culminating in the narrator accidentally knocking over the counter and sending the cash till flashing through the front window. The police are called and the narrator is arrested by a sergeant with a large moustache who shows no sympathy for his plight. At the station, the desk sergeant, a man with swallowed cheeks and a moth-eaten moustache, treats him with utter contempt. He mocks the narrator's notebook of poetry, calling it toilet wall humour and drivel, before forcing him to strip naked. Humiliated and freezing, the narrator is subjected to taunts and a physical threat before being thrown into a bare cell. He spends a sleepless, freezing night on a concrete slab, periodically tormented by a guard who denies him a blanket. This brutal experience of powerlessness and institutional cruelty serves as the gateway to the memories that have shaped his entire life. The story then plunges into his earliest childhood. He remembers the oppressive atmosphere of his home, dominated by the volatile and abusive presence of his father, a man with a distinctive blonde beard and a volatile temper. His father's obsessed with appearances and control, frequently exploding into violent rages. A key memory is of a breakfast where the family is terrorised over a bowl of porridge, culminating in a father smashing a stool and covering himself in the cold food, all while screaming about being the great provider. The narrator's mother, Junie, is a tragic, weeping figure, perpetually trying and failing to appease his father. His older brother, Nicholas, is larger and favoured by the father, quickly learning to join in the bullying of his young sibling. The narrator grows up feeling like an outsider in his own family, nicknamed the Smell due to his poor hygiene and rotten teeth. He suffers from terrible boils, and his father holds him down to squeeze the pus from them. A particularly traumatic incident involves his foreskin becoming swollen and infected, an event he calls the Saga of Tinkerbad. This leads to a terrifying hospital stay where a team of doctors, led by a pompous grey-bearded surgeon, injects and manipulates his genitals, leaving him with deep physical and emotional scars. The family's tenuous life is punctuated by the father's sporadic visits after he moves out. He continues to exert his authority, criticising our housekeeping and complaining about their use of his facilities. These visits are filled with tension, often ending in a miserable family meal out where the father makes a scene. During one such car ride, the narrator, sick from the smell of leather and his mother's perfume, vomits in the back of the pristine Rolls Royce, earning him a tirade of abuse.
The only solace I had was in the nature around me, the woods beyond my house, where carefully I'd collect butterflies and observed crabs on the beach at Sea Souter. This connection to nature was contrasted by the cruelty of the human world. During a family holiday at a seaside shack, I was molested by Norman, a school teacher and family friend. Confused and ashamed, I'd kept this a secret, believing it might be the facts of life my mother was always telling me I needed to learn. This abuse compounded my sense of shame and isolation. Back at home, I was relentlessly bullied at school for being unable to read or write properly. In an incident I remember as the Green Book, I spent 2 weeks pretending to read an advanced book to avoid the humiliation of admitting I was still on the simple picture books with mice on the cover. I was eventually found out and sent to remedial classes, further cementing my status as a failure. I formed a fraught friendship with the vicar's son, Jonty, whom I shocked with my knowledge of profanity and sex, eventually leading him in acts of nihilistic cruelty, like burning wasps alive at the stake. To escape the misery of home and school, I formed the Walderslade Liberation Army, the WLA, with 2 other outcasts, the cunning, snot-nosed Goldfish, who became the group's intellectual leader, and the weaselly bully Crowsfeet. We rebelled against the real-life destruction of our beloved woods by developers, sabotaging the building site. Our activities escalated from petty vandalism to building homemade guns and committing break-ins to fund our army. The enterprise inevitably collapses when Crowsfeet is caught and, to save his own skin, informs on the others. I'm interrogated by the menacing Inspector Sorrow and am forced to surrender a small pistol, narrowly avoiding a more serious fate. My father, upon hearing the news, has a complete breakdown. As a teenager, I managed to get into art college on the strength of my drawings. I found the environment pretentious and alienating, populated by what I see as posturing phonies. My only real connection was Errol, a sweet-natured, mentally challenged black student who was also a talented artist. The college community, particularly the feminist students, turned on Errol after he innocently asked a girl for a kiss. He was deemed a threat and was quietly removed from the college. I was disgusted by this hypocrisy, and after confronting a tutor about it, I was hurled out for publishing a booklet of my raw poetry, dismissed as toilet wall humor. My life became a chaotic whirlwind of intense, dysfunctional relationships. I had a devastating love affair with a girl named Sanchia, which ended with me on my knees begging her not to leave. The heartbreak sent me into a spiral of alcoholism and self-pity. Later, I met Dolling, a spirited but manipulative girl with a hair lip and a chaotic energy that both attracted and repelled me. Our relationship was a tempest of passionate sex, bitter arguments, and mutual destruction, culminating in a violent fight at a party that got us thrown out. After a night of drunken recriminations, I left her. I married another girl, Sheila, in a bleak, perfunctory ceremony at a registry office, and we moved into a grim council flat known as the Barrier Block. The narrative reaches its climax when my father, recently released from a short prison sentence for fraud, returns to the family home. He's a broken man, but his tyrannical nature remains. After one final pathetic attempt to assert his dominance, my years of repressed rage finally explode. I physically attacked my father, punching him and throwing him down the stairs. It was a moment of brutal, ugly catharsis. My father, whimpering and bleeding, was finally defeated. The book ends by circling back to the night of my arrest. I've been fined £75, a fortune to me, and kicked back out onto the street. I'm still broke, still an outcast, and still haunted by my past. The memories of my childhood, of the people who hurt me, and the few who showed me kindness, continue to swirl. I am a man permanently scarred by the lie of the family and the cruelty of the world, but I am also a survivor. I've taken the pain and the filth of my life, and through the act of writing, have found a way to speak my truth, raw and unvarnished, from the very heart of my own shadow.